What if burnout wasn't a problem to fix, but a signal guiding you toward deeper alignment with life? The Practice Podcast invites you to explore how aligning with your energy can transform your connection to yourself, your relationships, and your work. Through real stories, data-driven insights, and life-centered tools, each episode helps you tune into your body's signals and create life-affirming change from the inside out. Welcome to the Practice Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Practice Podcast. We have a very special Practicing With episode for you today featuring Bristol Baughan. Bristol is a TED Fellow, Emmy-winning and Oscar-nominated film producer, leadership coach, and culture innovator working at the intersection of story, embodiment, and regeneration. She is the founder of SHOWNOTES and the Regenerative Media Lab, where she brings artists, leaders, and storytellers together to imagine and prototype more life-affirming futures. Not to mention, Bristol has been a part of my personal soul pod for close to 20 years. This is an emergent conversation with an exceptional visionary and paradigm-shifting renegade. Enjoy. You guys, it's days like this that really light me up because I get to share my favorite people with you. I get to share Bristol Baughan, who is a lifelong friend and a deep soul sister. We've been on this path together for many, many years. And what's been remarkable, B, is that it seems like without any need for control, our paths and interests, what is drawing us towards it seems to be still very shared. And what would you say is that magnet that is drawing both of us towards it? How would you describe it?
You mean the thread of aliveness? Is that what we're talking about?
I mean the thread of aliveness. I mean, what is it that you think you and I, because I don't want to just
sister.
There's no doubt there's that, but what's the thing that you and I, because I have a lot of soul sisters, but
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of soul sisters that geek on regenerative like we geek.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the shared thing. And it's interesting, don't you think?
Yeah. No, and I'm so grateful. I can't tell you how it was lonely there for a while where I felt like I was learning about it from people outside of my friend group. And then it was like, but I didn't belong over there. And then it was, I'll never forget the first time I heard the word regenerative, where I was like, how have I never even heard this word before? And I'll tell the story briefly.
Please.
Because I think it actually captures the essence of what you're pointing to, that we're both in service of. But yeah, I was in it's called a fairy ring of redwoods, a council of redwoods, you could also call it, in Mill Valley, California. And a friend had invited me to come hear this guy speak. And I didn't even really know what I was doing. I was probably going to look for single men or something. And I found myself sitting on, a bench in this gorgeous green, brown, tall, beautiful. They're young redwoods. They're not the big fat ones, but they're perfectly perky and beautiful. And he is talking about his organization and the work that they were doing. And he broke it down so easily. He just said, regenerative, the difference between regenerative, sustainable, and degenerative in the context of agriculture. And if you imagine just a very simple graph where it was degenerative as a downward sloping line, or just taking value out, right? And then sustainable was trying to maintain, so seeing a flat line, but now we all know that we're actually not maintaining, we're degenerating what the essence of the soil. And so that regenerating was adding value back into the soil. And for me, my work, that you and I both share this passion that soul and soil are very similar. it operates on some of the same principles. And it was like, holy shit, I've dedicated my life to regenerating soul. That's what I've been doing. And now this is the Earth's perfect metaphor and what this guy was talking about. And it was like, oh my God, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to the connection between soul and soil. And so, like, and this was a moment that you and I were starting to play with another like leadership course with Source but it feels like, yeah, we both were called similarly timed. I guess my sense is that as you continue on this path of self-growth and deep listening, that it's just what emerges on your path for most people. I think it's something that happens to most of us. And it may not be soil specifically, but you start to pay attention to place. It's like that's what seems to happen. And you and I are both in service to that thread of aliveness, is what I would call it, which leads us to that moment in the forest where it's just like, okay, now next step on the path is for you to go and learn about whatever regenerative is and what it means and what it doesn't mean, and have that be a consistent lifelong adventure. As we both know, it's really hard to define.
You brought up, I think, some really, we could talk for days about just the concept of correlations between soul and soil and how they mirror each other in terms of the needs necessary to regenerate. And one of those needs is to, if we look at language from agriculture, is to let the soil lay fallow. Yeah? So to let the soul lay fallow can be a very scary experience. And fallow just means to let it sit still. So in agriculture, and please fill in the gaps here, Briss, because you might actually know more than I do on this. But when you are continuing, year after year, harvesting at an accelerated rate, eventually the soil becomes unable to produce. It is robbed of its minerals and nutrients to actually grow things anymore because of the sheer pace. And so one of the big regenerative principles is that you have to let it lay fallow. You have to let it lay still in order for it to refortify itself.
Yeah.
Because life is that magical that if you just let it sit still, a lot of times it starts to understand because it's intelligent. I think it was something like 1 teaspoon of soil has more microbes than there are people on the planet. Take that in. Take that fun fact in.
Earth might drop.
Yeah, Earth might drop. And it's just so endlessly awe-inspiring when you understand the mechanisms of how life happens on its own when we can just get out of the way. I'm wondering now if you can help us kind of go into the correlate for the soul, because it seems terrifying to let yourself as a body, as a spirit, sit still in a world that capitalizes on speed. It seems like a necessity. But you, my friend, have been one of the most courageous people that I've had the good fortune of knowing, of letting yourself lay fallow. You have called it in the past of just living in a place where there's no wind. No wind. Maybe those two things are different. But it seems to be a necessary part of then making yourself a trusted vessel for the aliveness. Yeah. So what say you?
Oh, man. It's such a great question. Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because the last time we did this, I had just moved
Mm-hmm.
to Portugal. I just moved to the Azores, the islands way out in the ocean, and I was terrified. Had I done the wrong thing? Was this a bad idea? I'm
But
living
let's go back too. You actually had moved from Mill Valley into
ranch in
Montana,
Montana. Mm-hmm.
where you didn't have people. So you took a big step in going quiet
Yeah.
because you wanted to what? In that piece, you wanted to what? Discover
Yeah.
what? In Montana that then led you to the Azores.
I wanted to fall in love with nature. I wanted to understand myself as nature. Because when people said it, I was like, yeah, obviously. And yet I've lived most of my life in cities. Like I didn't have a deep relationship with a place. And my dream was to live in community and build this regenerative community. And it was a boot camp in listening. Because when I go to places like the Redwoods or like Montana to listen with that intention, I might get like one thing in 2 years. Like,
That's courageous. Yeah. And when you
and
say I
when
might get one thing, what does that mean? I might get
one
one thing. What is
message,
that?
like one
message.
it feels like a direct communication. Like I'm getting tons of messages every day, but I don't know how to speak the language. So part of moving to Montana was learning how to speak the language of just observing seasons, being seasonal, being forced to be seasonal from someone from California, moving to Montana. I mean, being in a place where I was living on a 250-acre ranch where there were wolves and bears and moose and things that could actually kill me. Of course, they weren't interested in me. Maybe some of the trash cans, but it's like this is. I was living next to, I think it was like 1.2 million acres of protected wilderness. And so when I first moved there, it was so quiet that it was loud.
Right.
And my heart was beating so fast. I was afraid of
the
quiet.
silence. Yeah.
I was afraid of the wild. And of course, over the 2.5 years I was there, what it was helping me to unlearn some of the things I believed were necessary and true, meaning I had to be in a city in order to be so-called relevant. I had in order to, and there were moments of loneliness for sure, but what I was trying to do was open up my capacity to experience belonging in a place with the trees, with the land, with something just beyond just the human. And and it was very difficult, very quiet. And then, of course, slowly, things started to fall away. And there were moments of just such peace and such gratitude to this place and the family that had really not touched it. Like they protected it from at least, terrible agriculture and things. So it was, but truly terrifying. And there was definitely a sloughing off rite of passage that was happening then that, yeah, the idea of fallow was still the enemy. It was still very much the enemy. And I had to see through all the layers of conditioning that I had built up to essentially perform busyness. Like, I realized how much of a performance it was to belong. Where it was like, oh my God, everybody's so stressed and we're all so busy. And then it was like, how much of this action do I actually have to take for what I'm trying to accomplish? And usually it's 25% less. But it requires the waiting. It requires the seeding, right? And then the watering. And then the waiting. The idea that it's fallow and that nothing is happening is one of the biggest misunderstandings. That what's happening under that soil is life itself. Like there is death and rebirth and those billions of microorganisms. Like we are made up of at least millions of microorganisms. I think it's billions. It's we're the same, but we've just been born at a time when the idea of stopping or quiet or going in or going under into the underworld, that's somehow bad and wrong and to be avoided at all costs. And yeah, that's been my experience. And I'm in yet another, feels like it's never ending. I had a few years there where I was just writing and enjoying this place. But now I'm back into another moment of like, okay, I got to go under again. And how am I going to relate to myself as I go through another period of fallow, another period of quiet, of inner butterfly oozing dissolution, knowing that this is just part of the process and there's no getting away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I interrupted you when you were saying that, you moved to the Azores because that time in Montana, from an observation standpoint, that was wild as your friend. To watch you follow something and yet nothing is happening. And you're like, but I know you're following something. And I actually did understand. You just have an incredible courage to submit yourself to that process of deconditioning and being in relationship to place. Eventually the wind came and you did have one of those, moments of like, okay, now it's the Azores. Again, this little teeny tiny, if you don't know where the Azores is, you guys just look it up. It's a teeny tiny little island in between Portugal and Greenland. And so that's where she is now. Like, and how did you know that it was time? Like, because a lot of the work that we are also doing is helping people validate the non-logical, rational, analytical cues that are coming through their vessel as viable places to make decisions from. I know from a source perspective, we never want you to abandon all logic, but we most definitely want you to incorporate all of this intuitive and somatic knowing with your logic to get to choice, because we feel that you will be able to stay in touch with self, others, the earth, if you open up that right side of your brain. So tell me about, just slow walk it, what were the signals that were starting to emerge that allowed you the confidence to make a pretty unique choice?
Yeah. Well, first I have to let you know that the Azores are 9 islands that are in between Portugal and the United States. So I'm actually like straight to, I think it's basically like New York. So it's like between New York and but so the oh yeah, it's a great question. So this is where we talk about kind of following this thread of aliveness, where where am I feeling a sense of expansion, of energy, of leaning in, of a slight pull or a strong pull? What's the direction that keeps coming up? What is it that's repeated in my field so that I have to pay attention? It's like, I think you and I both know that when you kind of ignore those messages from the right side, they tend to get louder and louder. And sometimes, I'm not saying this is causal, but sometimes it seems like life finds a way to sit your ass down to really listen. And to what it is that's trying to come through you as you on this planet right now. And that for me started only where I was following that more than the logical definition of success, climb this ladder to reach said holy grail. That didn't happen for me until I was in my late 20s, and it came from a lot of suffering and pain. And so this time it was, it's so like, I'll say to people that I'll follow my aliveness off a cliff now. It's like when I get that tiny bit of like, tingling in my hands and my face and some sense of resonance with a place or a person, like I'm taking the next step. I'm not giving away all my money and changing my name and joining a cult, but I'm like taking the next small step to see where it goes next. That's all we have to do. I think so. This one was just the project in Montana was not going to happen. And I actually waited on the land for the owners to kick me out because I didn't want to be responsible for leaving if it was where I was meant to be. Because all the signs were saying this is complete. This is not going to happen here. And I was like, yep, but you know what? I'm waiting for the clarity of direction. So I just waited and waited. And it was probably about 4 months where I knew it was time to go until it's time for you to go. And then it was like, done. And then I get a phone call from my mother who's just like, I need to get out in order to retire. I want to be able to afford to live somewhere in my retirement, and will you come scout Portugal with me? And so the only reason I ended up in Portugal is because my mother asked me to help her, and then I got here, and we're flying into Ponta Delgada, the city here in São Miguel, and it's just stunning, green, kind of Maui, New Zealand, Ireland vibes, and she was like, "Oh, this is it," and I was like, "What?" And we get to spend a few weeks here, and she makes the decision. And I have to say, I was like, this wasn't my aliveness. Like I wasn't feeling all the things that this is where I'm meant to be. This is my next step in life, something dramatic like that. But I was following her aliveness. And so there's something interesting about aliveness in relationship that I had never really, because it took me so long to learn to trust my own, that it was like, I wasn't concerned with other people's, I was like, I'm just focused on mine. And then it was like, all of a sudden I was very neutral. I was like, Spirit, show me where you want me to be. And my mother was like, will you come with me over here? And I was like, oh, I can afford to live well. I can afford to focus on writing. I've wanted to write for a long time, mostly full time, but it was too scary to do in expensive places. And so I was like, oh, I guess this is the next step, And so learning to trust what the signs are that are around you without creating a bunch of story. I just want to say that because I feel like, no offense, but in California specifically, now that I've been out of it for a while, I've never seen so much storytelling, oh my God, around aliveness, around spiritual things, where it's just like, great, enjoy story, fine. But this is just what you're talking about, which is subtle, somatic awareness, and then observing what's in your field. So it's not, I'm called in this direction to be of my highest service in the biggest, best possible way. It's like, maybe let's just take one small step in a direction that feels alive. And then you get to discover, oh, okay, it's a little bit of this, but actually, it's a little bit over here. And then you're an artist of life. You're iterating and dancing with this energy of expansion and less concerned about what it's going to mean about your bottom line and about your reputation and all the things that we've been taught to measure our worth by.
You have a historical track record, though, of being a high performer, you've achieved so much in your career. And so I think what people need to understand that are new to you and your work is that this isn't the way you've always lived. This is where you've landed. But even the early days of trying to really achieve your way to happiness, or maybe it was achieve to success there, and therefore then you would become happy, that you really tried to use that map that we all inherited, and I think that gives you credibility to those that really do value hard work and and achievement. So I just want you, if you can, you're going to be our featured voice in the winter cohort. And there are many people that are high-level executives that they don't want to be ashamed of their ambition. They take pride in the ability to achieve, and yet there is something that feels imbalanced, and they want to be a part of the change. So how can you kind of use your life to provide, I guess, any wisdom, to people that are finding themselves maybe at the end of the line with just like the old way and now wanting to step into, you could call it a more integrated way of being. You could call it, I don't know, a more energetically literate way of being. But like, yeah. How would you speak into them and their experience at this time?
No, I love it. And when you just said that, like a more integrated way of being, it's almost, for me now, this might sound dramatic, but it's actually a being that will survive here.
And here you mean planet Earth.
Planet Earth. It's like, like the way of playing the game is done. Like we all understand now that is not sustainable. It is degenerative.
The thing is that we don't all understand it, which is a part of the problem.
No, people, I guess we all in this community.
We. Okay, got it. That's true.
Yeah. No, it's like, so let's not debate that. Now the question is, great, what's your ambition? I love ambition. Barbara Streisand is my woman. I have literally written on my board over here is like, Elizabeth Gilbert didn't become Elizabeth Gilbert before she wrote the book. Like, you have to write the book. You have to do the thing. Whatever it is that is calling you to perform or to express yourself or have an ambition, the ambition is not the problem. The question becomes, what do you want? What will this ambition that's driving you, what will it give you? And so when you have a sense of that, then it's like, oh, it will give me a sense of peace. If I make $5 million a year, I can finally be at peace, right? Then the work is, okay, well, let's not have our peace be dependent on $5 million a year. Let's create the peace while working towards the $5 million. Because right now we just have them backwards. We're focused on the external before we're focused on the internal conditions, right, that you teach, the internal conditions that will help to cultivate peace. And then from there, let's see what happens to what your ambition is focused on. Because if you want to be a part of the change, part of this is just shifting where you're aiming your fire hose.
Exactly.
Like, don't touch the fire hose unless it's burning you up. Then you gotta do your HRV and you gotta, listen to Jess and deal with that. But then once you have a sense of like, okay, I have this fire, I have all this ambition. Where do I feel most alive? Where do I feel most in my body? How can I aim all my gifts, all my talents in the direction? And so it might mean going through a period of not knowing. And we have been taught to avoid not knowing.
At all costs.
At all costs. And even on the thing you wrote that I just read today, what's the line about not defaulting to certainty?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was taught. You default to, yeah, I know. Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, of course I know exactly what I'm doing, where I'm going. Get out of my way before I steamroll your ass. Because who's getting in the way of my ambition?
And that's what makes you trustworthy, is when you can always speak from certainty. Like the old way is like, oh, if I can be certain, then I can be trustworthy. And that, in my opinion, now has been totally flipped on its head through lived experience. I only trust people that have the capacity to not know, because we don't. There's so much that's emerging. How could we know? So we have to develop the internal mechanism to sit in curiosity curiosity in the unknown in order to innovate, in order to create. Like, the new world will not be born without that capacity fully intact. So thank you for naming that.
Yeah. Oh, just one thought on that too. Like,
Yeah.
when I think about when you start to design your life in service of aliveness,
Mm-hmm.
it's less to do for a while with what you do for a living. It's actually so much more about the internal conditions so that you can go to whatever your job is and just have it be less energetically expensive
Right.
for you to do that job. And then you can embody the principles that you believe in that environment. But there may come a time where that environment is too costly and you have to shift to be more in alignment with your values. And that is where we come in.
Yeah.
It's like holding people's hands as they jump into the unknown, and just to say to those people that are either considering leaving a job or considering a different career change, I haven't regretted it once. And I have hundreds of people now that I've worked with that it's like, sure, there might be moments that you're like, oh, that bonus was sweet. But like, no way. When you start to live more in alignment with your values, with aliveness, and you feel more alive in loving presence, I mean, there's nothing that is worth sacrificing that for at that point. And then your purpose finds you, and you don't have to try so hard.
So much of like, oh. First, vitality is the ultimate currency. And so that's what, when we're talking about the aliveness, we're talking about that vitality. And I have an agenda. I'm just going to name my agenda, which is I want to wrangle all of the ambitious people. I don't want them to lose their ambition, but I would love to wrangle them and point them towards a regenerative future. We need those people with that design, because in source, we're very aware that everybody is designed very differently, just physiologically, psychologically. There's a lot of different ways to understand all of these different profiles. And there are specific profiles that are just a bullseye for those very ambitious things and projects, and that's their function. Not everybody, though, has that design. So if you take a person whose natural design is to not have ambition and make them be ambitious, that's going to cause so much burnout. But if you take a person that is naturally very ambitious and you tell them to not be ambitious, that too will create friction and burnout. So the beautiful part about designing with the logic of life in mind is that diversity is a core principle. We need all, and all belong. And a lot of this work is about knowing that when you understand your design through the process of self-discovery, and you understand your design, you can honor the divine in such embodied ways. And by the divine, I just mean like the greater good, the oneness, life, when you understand your design. And, culture kind of spits out a homogenized way of doing things to be successful, and that just isn't working. So I would love to see all of my ambitious profiles get super turned on by the regenerative movement, which we are a part of. Regenerative movement, living systems design. Source's main function is to bridge from theory into embodiment, because sometimes, as you know, the regenerative movement can also, succumb to living too much left brain, where you're thinking about the frameworks, but you're not pulling that in. And this is where your work really is important, because unless we can unhook identity from anything that you're doing, you could get caught with the small self driving the car, rather than just allowing yourself to know thyself and live authentically from that place. So
I'm curious. I've got a question for you, because when we like in your relationship to ambition, how has that changed in the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, it's changed substantially. because you just have to take many laps around the track of self-discovery before you can really take ownership of, oh, I thought that ability, because my nature is a visionary. I have a profile called the insula, which is a part of the brain that is the house of vision. And that's my function in the greater, kind of organism here. And I thought that function, I had to marry that function to a dollar sign in order to be great. And I can live from that function, but not attach it to a dollar sign. And then I feel way more freedom. So it's like I get to live my function, but I don't have as much attachment to outcome. But I get to have a great time being who I am. But it's the attachment to outcome that does seem to, and by outcome, because I have a North Star. I'm very clear about the North Star, but I don't have it on a timeline. I have a loose plan because I do think that that's important to manifest things in the third dimensional reality. But it's just like I'm in conversation with the process in a way that isn't like, oh, it's fixed. It's like now it needs to happen here, 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 and here. And that's what will, I don't know.
Or I'm a failure.
Make me great. Yeah. So now it lives like, oh, I get to be me. And there's a ton of stuff I don't know about how everything ends. And yet I take great delight. It feels enlivened and joyful to tell what it is that I see as being possible. And I'm willing to show up every day and live in a way that has deep energetic integrity. But a big part of the work was like living this thing of like any time that I'm overreaching my boundaries, I'm out of integrity with the things that I'm preaching. So it all has to happen at a pace that my system and my company can soften under in order for us to really, live it.
And I see, and what you're saying, I hear like work as practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
As practice, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting to hear you talk about it, because I think that was another thing that felt really lonely in the beginning of kind of my spiritual stuff. Was like one of our friends got like hyper ambitious, and another friend kind of less ambitious, and you and I were pretty a little more ambitious, but I was like ambitious in a different way, and it was just like and the ways that we used to bond and connect and feel those shift, where it's like, okay, it's trauma bond is too strong of a word, but it's in the same realm, which is like, we're in this beast together, fighting it out, trying to, and you stayed willing to try and help inside of it longer than I did, because I was like, I can't stay in it. Felt like I was a drunk in a bar. Like I felt like I couldn't trust myself around what I would call unconscious ambition. So it's all about ego, and it's less about service. And mine loves to mash them together. My ego, my spiritual and my ego love to put the spiritual ambition and external ambition together. And trying to make peace with that is something that I still go back and forth with, where it's like, I love it. Like I talk about this idea of the inner moonshot. It's like if all of some of the greatest beings around from, multidisciplinary backgrounds and fields thought about like, okay, what are the internal shifts that we have to make basically to like live into this regenerative future?
That's right.
It's similar to the moonshot. It's like, if that was our focus, and I think for a lot of us it is happening. I just want us all to like live together on a compound.
Me too.
And have coffee in the morning and talk about it.
Me too.
But I've had to but I'll have moments where I'll have this like ambitious idea like that, and I'll write about it, and then it'll just kind of be there, and then the energy to like feed it isn't there. And I just have to trust that it's like, okay, well, maybe that's not meant to go anywhere, or I'm not meant to do anything with it, or it's just not time.
Yep.
And one story that was really helpful for me around this was thinking about how scientists will spend their entire careers doing research on something, die, and then 3 scientists later, they'll find the cure.
Yeah.
And that scientist is one, name in a list of names.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, that person helped cure cancer. And so one of the biggest, I think, pieces of the unlearning around this for me has been the death of the hero, the individual hero, the star the Barbara, like bless Barbara. I was not born with that as my path, and I've had to come to terms with it. But it does come with quite a bit of grief and mourning, the realization that being the sole hero is kind of a narrative that was created under patriarchy. Not to make it about that specifically, but it's true. The one Son of God, the Savior, the return of the one, it's like, and we pick it up in the hero's journey and the myths. And it's like this worldview, this programming is a piece that feels like, ooh, ungripping it from my beingness is one of the hardest things I've had to do. And it's slowly starting to just leave me a little bit, and then I could snap right back into it, like defaulting to certainty. But then, okay, no, I see through it again. I see through it, the illusion. I don't have to be the sole individual, rugged individual hero. That's not really a thing.
Yeah. Again, you gave me like 40 things, and now my brain is like, which one do I choose? The first thing is when you were talking about, I have this big desire, and then I reach a point where it's like, I am not organically investing in it, and just trusting that, that is a wild experience, because in many ways the narrative would be, well, go for what you want. But you're following another type of information that's saying, but the whole regenerative movement is that you design a system so life starts to happen on its own. And it's not to say that it isn't work. There's all these paradoxes that we're always holding in tension, because the fact of the matter is, in order to get life to happen on its own, it takes a lot of work. Just look at the movie The Big Little Farm, where this couple just gets this total, vision to go start a regenerative farm, and you see how many hard lessons they have to learn to get to a place where all of a sudden you look out and the whole environment is working in concert with each other, and it's happening on its own, and they know exactly when to intervene. And they put this on, and then this on, and then this on. And so a big part of this is you're submitting yourself in regenerative, which I know can feel quite floaty and vague, but in regenerative, you are doing etheric gardening, where it's you are saying inside of yourself, there is an impulse here, but then there's another part that's but it's not my job to pull it all the way through. So you're just holding in the vision. That takes incredible discipline to not revert back. And then I also know you enough to know the internal tapes that can also run around things like laziness.
Yeah.
It's how do you know when it is honoring versus you're defaulting to laziness? Maybe you can tease that out, and then I'll get to the next place. And because that's a big one. That's a big part of the mechanistic age that we are trying to unravel, is that we're trying to teach people, using their whole brain to be able to identify right action.
Yes. So there's an amazing woman named Gigi Coyle who she she's done so many things. She spent 20 years running the Ojai Foundation, working with Thich Nhat Hanh for many years, just a badass. And she has been calling people into circle for years and years and years with the talking stick, very indigenous traditions. She's worked with a lot of indigenous tribes. She's just a beautiful being. And one of the questions that she will ask often in circle is, what is mine to do? What is mine to do? And she really, when she says that, she doesn't mean for you to answer it. Like, you're not supposed to pick up the talking stick and answer it. You're supposed to listen. Like, you could listen for years until there's some clarity. And so when I started my year and doing kind of, reflection on the last year and thinking about this year, I started with what is mine to do? And it was so clear. It's like, support my mother, love my dog, tend my few close friendships, and finish these books I've started. I have a whole other business. I have a bunch of other things on my list. And I'm just like, what's mine to do is often not about making money, which is infuriating in a capitalist reality. But it is what it is. And so it doesn't mean I don't do it, right? Like, I still do it, but I know how to design now my time, showing up for it. Well, let's talk about laziness. So I know how to design my time. And when I'm in my practice and I'm in alignment, then it's just chop wood, carry water. I'm not getting moments of aliveness all the time. I'm not constantly inspired. I'm chopping wood and carrying water.
That's right.
And I have a sense of relative contentment.
Mm-hmm.
Just, this is what I know I want to be doing with my time. And what a luxury and privilege that is. Like, I get what a privilege that is.
Totally.
And so then it's a matter of, if I'm not showing up for my writing, my commitment, what is mine to do, then I'm probably being lazy. And if I'm being lazy, why? Because laziness for me now, I know it's a fear. It's not going to be good enough, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then I'm going to read versus write. Like, then I'm in the negotiation with all the inner parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the identification of what is mine to do will help you know, this is mine to do. This requires a sprint. This is going to require 3 sprints this year, whether you know that or not. But it's like, then whatever's needed, you have to build the capacity for, which is exactly what you teach. It's like how to work with your energy so that you know, today I'm not lazy. I have low energy. Great, let me read. Reading is just as important for writing as writing. Okay. Let me trust that my energy is actually guiding this in a way that is better than my mind could design.
Mm-hmm.
And that took a long time. My mind was sure I was doing it wrong.
Totally. What contradictions right now are you aware of that you're living inside of this, like, practicing regeneration?
I mean, the way I eat, the way I shop. Like, my mom and I just went to the farmer's market. Thank God. Just driving the extra 15 minutes to get to the farmer's market. Like, prioritizing not buying as much plastic stuff in a supermarket.
Right.
Like, that, what I eat, meat, no meat, that's something that feels like I need to get my act together around that for sure. God, there's so many things. I feel like if like becoming regenerative, or living a more regenerative life is like a percentage, I'm probably like 30%, which is actually not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad, because I'm mostly doing it in the way I live within myself. Like, that's probably where it lives the most. Like, I lost a friend a few months ago and I went down. And I just let myself go down. It was like, you gotta grieve, you gotta mourn, and not put pressure on myself to get back up again. Again, privilege, deep privilege. But I've designed my life so that when I have to grieve, I can go in and grieve for months if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a great question. That feels like the biggest one at the moment is just like lifestyle. Like we still use probably too much energy. I need to get on solar. Like just
Right.
really like tangible things. What about you?
And it's a hard one to contend with, because in my mind I'm all in. Like, and yet you really got to do the proper inspection of rubber meeting the road. And like you, there's so much I don't have control over. Like I don't have control over re-architecting the whole system. That's why I do what I do, because I'm trying to galvanize enough of the creators and builders out there to be like, hey, let's first get into a more regenerative relationship to self, and we can do that in the ways in which we've laid out. And then let's go to the next place and apply these principles to the businesses that we're building, because being at 30% is probably pretty accurate, because you don't have enough say over how the system is designed. So things are extraordinarily either expensive or inconvenient. And either you don't have the resources for the regenerative solution, or it takes too much time and therefore it's extractive to your energetic supply. So you're always holding those tensions.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, that's why everything just points back to just keep sharing, just get people into a place where they are confident to cycle their own energy in a way that is regenerative, and then they'll start to design things in their likeness and their understanding. That's the hope. That's the hope.
I love that. And that reminds me of what's emerged lately that I would love to share is the holy enough. There's something about the energy of just a neutral enough. Like thinking of a mother to a child that they love who's breaking things in the house, right? Who's destroying the plants in the garden. And it's just, that's enough. There's something about this moment that I think as we do this work, as we understand what it is to regenerate ourselves, or how much we are like soil, that there becomes a layer and a level of inability to participate in the systems as they're currently designed and operating that I think is growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is going to be really powerful to see more and more people. I mean, I'm watching the news and watching people in Minneapolis take to the streets. Like, it's going to take all of us, so many of us, to say enough. And it's probably going to be a little dangerous for a while to say enough. But the more we can say it, and without even having to make arguments, it's just enough. I don't know. Sorry, I keep saying it, but something about that is really hitting me. It's like, okay, I think I'm going into my menopause universe where enough is going to be my anthem.
Well, yeah, I do have so many high hopes for perimenopausal and menopausal women for changing the system. Because it is unhooking from people pleasing and standing in one's inner authority of knowing. And because, embodiment work is essential for all. It comes a little easier to women, or our early adopters might be more women when it comes to truly embodying these and then letting it ripple out. It's definitely not a given, let's say. Just because you're a woman, you're going to get this. There are many men that get this faster than women, but there's more permission to be, in your sensorial experience as a woman. And we need to be like, oh man, I need you in your body. I need you to feel how the energy is running. What allows you to it's not a psychological thing. It's a lived thing, which is quite lovely, I will say. Except for when the pain hits, and then, but that's all feedback. It's like your feedback to calibrate your inner posture and the way in which you're holding your antenna, you know. Last question, my darling, and then we will wrap for today. I want to know what the subtle shift, more than like any other thing that you can do, what subtle shift tends to matter more than any framework for someone wanting to live more regeneratively? Like, what is like the one takeaway that you could give to somebody? What shift can they make that can get them into this place that we keep pointing at?
It's like to be patient and kind with yourself as you go through the shape shift. It's like this shape shift is happening for us all on multiple levels, whether that's in the external world, the internal world. And so having some sense of kindness with yourself as you go through it, it will help to make it much more easy and graceful. And so that's the piece, like unlearning this idea that you're supposed to be any certain way, especially around productivity. It's like this is a journey. It's a be kind as you learn a new way of being. And for me, I had to write on the wall for a long time, trust in the unfolding. Trust in the unfolding. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're listening to this means you're on the path. So don't worry, am I on the path? Am I on the path? Am I not doing the thing? I'm not doing the thing. No, you're here. This is it. Now you just keep following what makes you come alive. You keep following the green lights and you have a sense of, okay, let me be kind as I judge the shit out of this, or as I fail at this attempt, or, it's that piece. And the last thing I'll say is my teachers used to say, you can't yell at a 2-year-old that's learning to walk. And so that's it. You can't yell at a 2-year-old that's learning to walk. So be kind to yourselves, even though I know that's really hard to do.
One of the definitions of regenerative, creating conditions conducive for life, and you are one of the main conditions in my life that allows for more life to happen. So thank you for being an essential ingredient in my soil. It fortifies me to grow and to create just your choices and being who you are and the risks you take and the stakes, the real stakes that you're willing to look at dead in the eye and say it's worth it. I love you. I appreciate your being, and I'm so grateful that we get to, create together.
Thank you so much. Love you.
I love you.